the myth, the legend, the phenom, the New Orleans native turned Florida, turned Florida. What is it? Turned Floridian. For many reasons, for his music popular because it did play in itself a lot. So, who is this artist I'm talking about? Lil Wayne. And so this, partially me being biased, but also me being genuine when I say, genuinely just overall, I think it's one of those. It's one of those deep connections that I don't physically have, but the artist puts out music that makes you relate to a song so much. And this song it's very much more explaining to me, and I think that's strictly what this song is. This song by itself is just like creative way of expression, and to some extent I don't knock it, but I was expecting a more Wayne with more kind of metaphors behind it, and the song is metaphor heavy, but like it's not a unique Lil Wayne song. It's unique in its own ways, but it's not different, and I love Lil Wayne's music, but it's not. It's a weird song to listen to. I get that adds up. The song title is "Can't Nobody," which is ironic. It's the K instead of the C. We'll get into all of that later. We'll get into really in a few minutes. Just let's see if we have any sponsors. But before we get into the sponsor situation, this has a DMX sample to it, which Lil Wayne references a lot. And I get it. DMX is great. DMX is a legend. But it is a DMX sample. I think I would have loved to see DMX and Lil Wayne actually on the song. So, with that being said, let's see how many sponsors we'll get right into it.
Tá cheinho de ofertas. Fica que vai ter bolo e também tem muito ponto. Aniversário Livelo, recheados de descontos. Juntar e trocar os pontos por viagem e produto. Tem também o cashback, aproveitar, baixio. É tudo de pontos pra você. Livelo, tudo de pontos pra você. Livelo, o cadastro é grátis e já dá pra começar. Tudo de pontos pra você. Livelo.
So in order to have this conversation, I have to be transparent. I guess I'd have to be transparent. I'm a Lil Wayne fan to an extent. But we're gonna kind of get into this. Where he says, "Something's not just smile to hide the road traveled." Which I mean, metaphorically, it's a great line. I think you can't go wrong with the metaphor of that. But it's a concept I've heard before of people saying that they don't like to show the road that they travel to get or to be famous, which I mean I get it, but you know, he had his troubles and tribulations, but he doesn't really go into details about it. And I think this is partially because Wayne's done it before. Wayne's talked about his past, him being shot or him pulling the trigger on himself. He's talked about it, the education system, and he's talked about that. You know, I think he's talked about many different topics about Lil Wayne's future before. So I think that's why that line is here. But it still shows that he has like a pain or hatred towards the road that he traveled to get here, or he may love it. It's just that line of sometimes I smile to hide the road travel. Like, hey, I don't want nobody to know I traveled this road to get here, but I did it, you know. And I think you should take accomplishments in that, because that's Lil Wayne. That's something that I can't say that I hate. Like, Lil Wayne became famous for one of those reasons. He kept it true and he kept it honest. So this next line is gonna take me to explain this a little bit, right? A little bit, and I'm gonna probably get this wrong into a certain degree. I think I'm gonna get this wrong to a certain degree, and I'm fully aware of that. But he says his family's like the Kennedys, and I think he said Genoveses, but Genoveses is mob related, and I'm not sure if he said Genoveses. So I'll talk about the Kennedy aspect of it. Kennedy in himself, I think people, when they think Kennedy, they think John F. Kennedy, which that's fair. I think that's fair. But we kind of have to look at the Kennedy that started the Kennedy Revolution, or started the Kennedy family. I guess that's what I'm gonna say. Lil Wayne is like the father of the Kennedys, right? Where he was, in a sense, and I think this is why I like this metaphor, but it's a lengthy metaphor, because he says my family's like the Kennedys, right? Like it started somewhere, and the father Kennedy, and I'm gonna call Lil Wayne is the father of YMCMB, and I'll explain that later. But he said his family's like the Kennedys, right? And so we could argue that when he's talking about family, he's talking about, you know, DJ Khaled, Lil Wayne, DJ Khaled, Drake, Nicki Minaj, Juvenile, Tyga. We could argue all of that, right? But when he says his family's like the Kennedy, I'm gonna take the more celebrity approach to this, which you probably could do as any family like that. But he said his family's like the Kennedys and the Genoveses, right? Like, so I think he said Genoveses. I could be wrong, but I swear I think he said Genoveses, because then this next line, then this line would make sense if he said Genoveses. If he said Genoveses, this would make sense. But I gotta have to explain this, because my knowledge, I think, isn't common knowledge, so I kind of have to explain this. Anyway, so the father, Kennedy's father had, was it 3 sons, maybe 4? Anyway, he had 4 sons, and he told him that one of his sons had to go into politics. John F. Kennedy, the president, went into politics. His other brother went into politics too, but I think he became a senator, and so on. And they created more legacies within the Kennedy name. This could be with Lil Wayne, right? Solely because Lil Wayne gave DJ Khaled, Drake, and Nicki Minaj a platform, and Tyga a platform. And Drake created OVO. DJ Khaled created With a Boss. And Nicki Minaj created Queen Radio, but also a platform, or not a process, a legacy, so that women artists could make it in the industry and not go through what Nicki Minaj went through by the public, which we could argue that it didn't help nationally, because in the public there are some people that still treat people like they treated Nicki Minaj when she was coming famous in the early 2000s, which is why I think that's why that Kennedy and that Genovese line, I think he said Genovese, but Kennedy, okay. He says I'm eating like Jeffrey Dahmer, which relates to a woman, and good, I'm not going to be too explicit, but, you know, which is, I think, is a funny line in itself, not because there are people that were affected by Jeffrey Dahmer, so I have to explain it. There were real people that were affected by Jeffrey Dahmer, right? So it's sad, but I think the point of this message was just, hey, I'm good at what I do to women. I think that's what he was trying to say. Now, if people want to be hooked, because I'm not sure when this was recorded. This was put out recently, but I'm not sure when this was recorded. And, you know, people were looked famously, and then got their reputations destroyed after they were convicted. So I just wanted to point that out, that he said the Jeffrey Dahmer line, and I just wanted to make sure I noted that, so people don't go, hey, you didn't note when he said that, and that might be offensive. I don't know, right? People were physically hurt in that Jeffrey Dahmer situation, and my heart goes out to them. My heart goes out to DMX too, because this is a DMX sample. He says, I'm the best rapper and the best trapper and dapper, which So this is my thing, and I think this is why I think he said Genovese's, right? Because if people don't know, I think the only other time I've heard Dapper as it relates to John F. Kennedy, rest in peace, John F. Kennedy, or the notorious John Gotti, he was also titled Dapper Don. So, Lil Wayne says he's the best rapper. He's the best rapper, so I don't hate for that. I understand him saying that he's the best rapper and claiming that he's the best rapper, right? Like, he's in my top five. Well, my top five or six, right? Without a doubt. You can't argue. Lil Wayne is definitely a hustler, trapper, hustler. Same thing. That's hard to deny, right? But he says X Factor to make an example out of these rappers, which this is the thing. And so when he says this line makes me laugh, but it's also something that I worry, because he says that, and the line is make a rapper out of these examples. Is he talking about his mixtapes? Because his mixtapes, if another mixtape's coming out, that's great, because out of his mixtape on other people's songs or creation of songs, they go great. He proves that he can do what any artist does on a beat and still make that beat great. If you don't believe me, listen to dedication albums 1 through 6. Or sorry for the wait, even at that. Like, he's proven he can do these. You said that the body smell like a corpse. Not touching it, because if you keep a corpse in the sun too long, it starts to smell. Don't ask me. I know that knowledge. I just do. Don't hit me up with that checking out bag. Just don't hit me up with just trying to find out what I'm doing and trying to borrow money from me, because they're going to hit you up the next day talking about they want something from me. Yeah, nope. That line right there is something that I know that when he said it, and I was just like, yeah, you know what, that's somewhat true. I can't argue with that. That's sometimes true. People are like, hey, how you doing? Great. Oh, okay, cool. Let me hit you up somebody the next day. We not, and I totally get that. Like, this is why I think the metaphors are great. The delivery, not so much. So it kind of hurts me. But and DMX opens the song up, do what you love, right? Which is iconically something that I would recommend as advice. Now, I'm not proven to give great advice, but it is something you want to think about in life. So with that being said, I think this song for me is kind of a 7 or a 6.7, because it's just the metaphors are great. I love Lil Wayne and his metaphors, but the message isn't quite there. So overall, a 6.7 or a 7 out of 10.